Hi everyone. I've got some another example of watercolouring today, the Cheer Up Buttercup card. And this is what you get in the kit. You get the grey mat, and the grey mat is 3 7/8 by 5 5/8. The white mat is 3 5/8 by 5 3/8. I'm just using Tombow here. I find Tombow is really good because it doesn't dry so quick, and you can make your frame really nice and accurate. The coloured mat is 3 3/8 by 2 3/8. But before I put that on, I'm going to just grungy up the background a bit by using my aqua blender and some crumb cake ink. And to dry it quickly, I just use my heat tool. Now pop on that coloured mat. Of course, you get all of that in the kit, so nice and simple. Just pop a piece of ribbon across the top of that. And so some people wrap the ribbon all the way around, but I often will make it shorter and just glue at the back of it, only because it saves ribbon. Ribbon's an expense. Try and keep the cost down. Now we just pop a bow on that, nice and simple. What I like about this method is you can put your bow on, and then at the end you can decide exactly where you want your bow. It's nice and easy. It's not glued on, it's not attached. Now in your kit, your watercolour paper, see I've used half of a piece. So you get enough for 4 cards out of it, even though I've got the rest of the ingredients only for 3 cards, so you've got enough to do an extra one. And out of that, I've die cut some ovals, but you can use rectangles, or if you have a round circle, if you don't have a big shot, you can just cut the circles out yourself if you'd like that. And I'm using the Backyard Basics stamp set, which I believe is retiring. Very sad, but the retired list is out now, so good time to get it. So I'm just embossing it now with Versamark. And the heat tool. Just watch that it doesn't blow away. So now that's dry. You can't really see it, but you'll soon see it. It'll just pop out of there. I'm using Real Red, Coastal Cabana and Crumb Cake. The same colours that are in the Designer Series paper. Stampin' Up is wonderful, everything coordinates. It's my favourite thing. I usually try and make the inside of the butterflies, or flowers for that matter, the most intense colour. Zoom in a little bit. And I'm using the fine tip blender pen. Aqua painter. As the colours dry, they fade in intensity, so just bear that in mind when you add the colour on. If you think that that might be a little too dark, it will fade as it dries, just a little bit. So make it always slightly stronger than you think you need. Now I'm just outlining them, just to give it a little bit more depth. It really makes the butterflies pop. I've just ran and got a cloth, because once you've done, it's really a good idea to just give it a little buff. All those areas that are embossed, the paint won't sit to, so they'll just be sitting on the very surface. So if you just give it a buff, the colours will just pop out rather. Just showing you that I've used the scrap piece for the sentiment. And I'm using the stamp set So Very Grateful. I love the font in this stamp set. Just lining it up with the grid paper. Just making banners of the ends. Not that you can see, sorry. I like to glue everything at the very ends. Once I've decided where everything will be situated, then I decide to glue. That's a sponge. I've cut up my sponges and I've just stapled a little piece of Whisper White on there with the name of the colour that I use on that particular sponge. Just a good way of keeping everything clean and using the correct sponge for the correct colour. And then just sponging the edge. Now the final piece, putting the sentiment on. I put some dimensionals on the back, and then I decide to put some dimensionals on the back of this one. Together. Now because one has one dimensional, one has the other, it sort of is uneven. You could just bend that down, but I find that sometimes that the dimensional will pop off. So if I just add 2, it makes it nice and straight. And now there's no wobbliness. And we're done. All we have to do now is attach it to the cardstock. And there we have a watercolour card that uses embossing as well. And that's the Cheer Up Buttercup sentiment. And I decided to trim the ribbon on that one too. Here's our second example. We grab our embossed cardstock, the pool party, and we just trim the edge off because it's slightly bigger than we need it to be. So that's where it's going to go. And we have to score the white cardstock at 2.5 inches. I'm sorry I use inches all the time, but in card making most of the tools are set up in inches, so I've learned to do that. If you need the centimetres, let me know and I'll figure it all out. Don't use the dark one, use the light coloured slider because that's a scoring tool. And we fold that one. Now, I now fold it in half, but don't do that when you make your card. Trim off 7/8 of an inch of the end of the cardstock at the furthest end away from the score line, and you'll see why in a minute. So now we attach the pool party embossed piece. But only to the end section. And that's how it sits up. Now, as you can see, there's a 7/8 of an inch, not quite an inch, 7/8 of an inch left. So that's why you need to trim that off the end and then fold it in half. So I'm going to trim that now. For some reason I made so many mistakes, and I'm just measuring that trimmed piece to tell you how much to trim off. I made so many mistakes in this particular video. So you can see that the half of that watercolour paper is just slightly too big. So I've just trimmed that off so it fits neatly in the embossed area. So now we use a stamp using Stays on Ink, and it's another one from the Backyard Basics set. I'm really going to miss this set, it's so nice. Good impression, press down hard, here we go. So now we're just going to watercolour that area. And the colours I use are Pool Party. I almost used the colours from the previous card, but I've decided to use Pool Party, Old Olive and So Saffron. So again, darkest at its very centre, using the Pool Party to create intensity, and then I'll go over that with So Saffron. So I just build up the layers now to get that intense look. And you can see that that pool party is just a hint of colour there. So now Old Olive. Whenever you use a stamp image and in some sections there's a lot of lines sort of indicating shading, that's where I like to go a lot darker with the colour. So on those underlying leaf areas you can see there's a few extra lines, and so that's where I'm going, just that little bit darker, like through there. That leaf is darker on the underside. And again, I'm adding just that little bit of yellow now that everything's dried. So add some ribbon to that now. On the original card or the sample card, I used the die to cut out the image, and you could do that if you have a big shot. But on this one, I show that you don't have to do that. All I'm going to do now is round those corners. Attaching the Marina Mist ribbon. In the final piece, I also add a piece of baker's twine. You'll see that in the last picture. Just I tie the baker's twine around the ribbon, just pulling it in slightly. Now your Stampin' Bling, the rhinestones. We like sparklies. I like sparklies. And some Tombow. I'll be very glad in about 30 seconds that I use Tombow. You'll see why. Yep, it's all on. Open the card. Oh, I can't open the card. I've put it on upside down. So now, fortunately, because it takes a little bit longer to dry, I can reposition it. That's better. So now for the sentiment. So I'm using the two-part sentiment out of the So Very Grateful stamp set. And the first part says, you're so very giving. And I was going to use Pool Party, but I decided that it wasn't as intense a colour as I needed, so I chose the Marina Mist in the end. And yes, you can see the sticker on my stamp block is upside down. So just trim around that. I like the fact that that sentiment is in two parts. It's really handy for cards like this. You're so very giving. Have to put that on the card now. Just fiddling around with it. You're also very giving, and there's no edge for the easel to sit up against, so we're going to make that now. So we're using the second part, I'm so very grateful. So again in the Marina Mist, I stamped that down, and I think I must have rocked it because it came out all smudged. So I did it again. And now I'm just trimming around that. So I'm just sponging around the edge. Sorry you can't see it. Now to attach it to the card, it's just some dimensionals. And then you pop your easel up, just decide where you'd like it to sit or how you'd like it to sit, and then put your little prop up against it. And that's it. Trying to get it in shot to show you how it sits, it's a bit difficult. So there are my two samples. Thank you for watching my video. I really appreciated it, and I hope you're having a good time. If you need help with anything, just let me know. Bye for now.